Hello YouTube, back with the next My Little Pony review, and today I'm reviewing King Charleton the Great, which is the father of Edgar, they're both penguins from, I guess, the North Pole or some cold region in general. Probably the North Pole is probably my guess, given what happens. As it turns out, Edgar sees the good in his father, and he would, because in fact he's known his father probably since, at least since he was born, but King Charleton proves to be a dangerous threat to Ponyland because he ends up making it snow where it ordinarily would not be. And of course, in real life, you can't have that happen. The conditions have to be right, or you can't have snow. It has to be cold, first of all. It has to be around freezing at least. It can be a little bit above, but it's not. It's like you can't just throw snow on the ground in any type of weather here, especially considering, I mean. And of course, even some of the ponies picked up on the fact that this wasn't right. And of course, as it turns out, yes, Edgar's father is literally cold-hearted, and he's just wanting to create a mess. And he's even willing to do that at the expense of freezing Edgar's only known friend, Sunny, who I think is also a penguin of sorts. He gets encased in ice, but it's not until Edgar's himself is encased in ice that his father realizes his mistake. And that proves he was not a bad guy to start with. He just probably got bitter over time due to some either unexplained, event that occurred that kind of built up over time, or it was explained and I've just forgotten what it was. But either way, I mean, I think this is probably a better way to have a villain is to have them realize that they're, what they're doing is wrong, rather than, like Friendship is Magic has done, is just reform every single villain just because. I mean, they don't really have any explanation for it, other than, I mean, yes, they don't have to reform villains at all. I wouldn't necessarily count this as reforming, because this is not technically a villain entirely. I mean, he plays a villain for a while, but we find out more along the lines of what Tempest had in the movie of Friendship is Magic. The 2017 movie, Tempest was not actually a bad guy. So she had a good side to her entirely. She was not a bad guy in general, but she played one for a while. This is the same idea with King Charleton the Great. I don't know why he's given that name, but he has that name, and we don't know whether we don't even know whether they have a last name or not, but at least Edgar is smart enough to realize where his father's, coming apart. I mean, obviously, Edgar is much younger than his father. By how much, we don't know. I would say I don't even know. I mean, obviously, they're animals, so they're not going to be in human years, but I guess Edgar would be a kid, and that would make King Charleton the Great would probably be more of an adult, somewhere in his 30s, maybe. 30s or 40s, somewhere in there. So that would probably mean Edgar's probably like 5 or 6, maybe even 7, but he knew it. He knew what his father was like, and his father obviously didn't even realize what he was doing was wrong until he ends up freezing his own son with the very weapon that he was using against Ponyland. And as I recall, even the rainbow that was in Ponyland was actually frozen solid. That's how cold this was. This proves his father at least knows how to make decent machinery that not only works, but works effectively. It's just too bad he didn't use it for the right reasons. If he had used it for good instead of evil, he probably would have been a whole lot better as a whole. But this only lasts 2 episodes, so if you're, you don't get to see them right away. I think for much of the first half of the story, you don't get to see him until partway through it. Even then, you don't get to see a whole lot of him because the ponies are the one coming to Edgar, because they want to figure out what's going on. Why are they having snow in probably spring or summer? Arguably, you can have snow in spring or summer, but again, you have to have the conditions right. So you can't have spring temperatures in the 50s and 60s and have snow. It doesn't work that way. But they're not a bad way to going about it. You get to see. It's too bad we don't see them anywhere else. Seeing them after this occurred, see how they're doing, maybe get a little. I don't think we actually get a whole lot of backstory as to why he is the way he is. But it seems to be just over time he got worse and worse. Maybe it's because he doesn't have a whole lot of friends, and the fact being in the cold, that thing literally made him, bitter to the point where he started to attack everyone else. But it's not a bad relationship. It's an interesting relationship. Get to see how, it's probably typical. I don't think there's anything not typical in this show that hasn't occurred in other cartoons of this nature. But not a bad couple. Not a bad pair to watch and see how they unfold. It kind of would be more interesting to have them, like, maybe even have Edgar turn bad as well, and, or have some other unseen force controlling the two of them. That wasn't seen until that point. But either way, that's my review on Edgar and King Charleton the Great from the G1 MLP TV show. Thanks for watching.